Hey everybody, how is it going? It is June, so that means it's the middle of the year, and I thought that I would do kind of the mid-year book reading wrap-up, like book tag thing. I've never done one before, and I honestly don't watch a ton of these because I feel like I always miss them, but I thought I would do one this year. Before I start, I'll kind of like recap my reading year a bit because I feel like it's been a bit weirder than normal. And then I'll go through the book tag and then talk about the books I'm currently reading. But this definitely will be a bit of a chattier video, just kind of me sitting here talking. So if you want to put me in the background of something or grab a drink, I've got an iced coffee, and then some type of electrolyte combination. So that's what I'll be drinking. It's really hot now this time of year, so I feel like I just am constantly drinking something. But anyways, that's besides the point. So I wrote down the questions that, oh wait, no. First, I'm gonna start by talking about my year. So let me go to my book list for the year and then some of my New Year's resolutions, and we can kind of talk about how I've been following them and just kind of like what I've read so far. So far this year, I have read 16 books. I keep a log here in my journal. I just write it down, as you can see, like that. And most of these have actually been for school. I've read, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Shakespeare books for my Shakespeare class. And then a lot of stuff. I was writing a really big paper for the end of my like college capstone or undergrad capstone, and so a lot of this reading is like articles, like really lengthy articles that I consider a part of that, and then books for that and a lot of poetry for that. So I feel like a lot of my reading can't even be accounted for because it's a ton of poetry and a ton of articles. That's like most of what I read this year. So I've definitely read a lot more than this list like really looks like. But another thing I wanted to talk about was my New Year's resolutions. Usually these kind of revolve around reading in somewhat. The word that I assigned for the year was slow, and I do feel like I have achieved that with my reading. I have taken things very slowly. It has not felt like a race to complete books. I contemplate what I've read, which is why I've only read 16, and I think I set my reading goal at 30. I didn't even really want to set a reading goal for the year because I kind of just wanted to take things as they came, but I still did. I didn't want to like go through things so fast that I felt like I wasn't getting anything out of it. So all of my New Year's resolutions reflected that word, but especially my reading. So let's see. The first reading goal that I wrote down was read The Hunchback of Notre Dame and finish the Iliad. I haven't done either of those things. I went to France this year, and so I thought I really wanted to read The Hunchback of Notre Dame before I went to France. I didn't do that. I still have time though. And then the other one is finish the Iliad. I also have not done that. It's honestly just been too crazy of a year for me to do either of those things, but there's still time. And if I don't get to that, I won't be hard on myself either. The next one was write up a page about each book in my journal. I think I've only done that for maybe 3 or 4 of the books. Honestly, the school year just got too busy, but I think that is one I would like to get back to, even though I've certainly fallen off. And maybe as I talk about the books, I'll read you what I wrote. So I think that was all of my reading goals. So now we can kind of jump into the reading tag that I watched other people and I came up with a little list. So the first question, I'm going to take a sip of this real quick. It's got like lemons and salt and then some type of electrolyte powder that doesn't have any flavor. That's why it's pink. It's not actually like watermelon or anything. That's unnecessarily loud. So the first question was best book of the year. And looking over my list, I actually kind of found this to be a little challenging for me to answer because I feel like I haven't read a ton of books that I've actually truly loved. Like, I think I've rated most of the books I've read 5 stars, but I've read a lot of Shakespeare, which obviously is hard to qualify that. Like, they're just good. But I've kind of had a hard reading year in terms of nothing has really resonated with me really deeply, but a few came to mind. But overall, I chose this book. This book is Hannah Coulter by Wendell Berry. And I read this book because I was writing my capstone paper, joining my 2 disciplines of painting and drawing and literature into a discussion about the land and how, as Americans, we don't appreciate the landscape and how our destructive use of it in terms of urbanization and building destroys our imaginations revolving the land. And so I did this through looking at Wendell Berry, the author, and then the American Romantic painters. So I read a ton of Wendell Berry this year, but I've read Hannah Coulter before, and every time I read it, it hits such a chord in me. If you don't know, Wendell Berry is a Kentucky farmer. He's still alive, and he writes a lot of rural agrarian literature, and he writes poetry, articles, essays, and novels. And a lot of his novels are set in Port Royal. I've only read a handful of them. I hope over the span of my lifetime I'll get to all of them. And they're basically the cast of characters in a small town, just this small farming town, and what that looks like for them. And this book specifically, out of his work that I read, I loved because it's from a woman's perspective who is married and then remarried when her husband dies. And it goes over how a landscape kind of becomes a part of her memory and a part of herself. And it didn't have to be. And I just think it's so beautiful. Let me read a few passages to you. Okay, I found it. I have to quiet myself before I can hear the quiet of the place. And a car passing along the road up on the hillside or an airplane flying over makes it harder. But I listen and I wait, and at last it comes. It is an old quiet, only deepened by the sound of the creek, a bird singing, or a barking squirrel. It goes back to the beginning, and in it you can imagine the life of the vanished house. So that's just kind of talking about the land and her memory with it. And then a lot of my paper talked about how in America now we have a tendency to move around if we feel like there's something bigger or better for us. But I think that this displaces us a lot and weakens our connections with people and the land. And so I was looking a lot for quotes about kind of this displacement, and I think this is one. Most people are looking for a better place, which means that a lot of them will end up in a worse one. I think that is what Nathan learned from his time in the army and the war. He saw a lot of places and he came home. I think he gave up the idea that there is a better place somewhere else. There is no better place than this, not in this world. And it is by this place we've got and our love for it and our keeping of it, and this world is joined to heaven. So I think those ideas really sing with what I was writing about. But yes, so I would say Hannah Coulter, I don't know if it's my favorite book of the year, but it's definitely one that resonated with me the most so far. The second question is best sequel. So I've read 2 sequels, but I'm going to talk about this one for now. So this is the Mad Ship book in Robin Hobb's world. This is the second book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy. And as you can see, I am still right here. I've got all these to go. I really only read fantasy in the summer, so I just finished this book. I read it at the beach, and it was just so magical and wonderful reading it by the water. I think that's the best place to read books about pirates and ships and sea serpents and just so many magical things like that. I really love this book. I think she is expounding so well on the plot and the world. She takes things so slowly. She doesn't rush into decisions or character decisions. She builds each character and each plot movement so meticulously and so well thought out that sometimes it can get slow reading, but the reward is it's just such a great reward. And I cannot wait to read the next one. We're going to the beach again this upcoming weekend, so I'm going to have to get to the third book to start that. But yeah, I highly recommend the Robin Hobb series. I think I've recommended it maybe before somewhere. Even if you don't like fantasy, if you like characters, if you like a lot of really well done character work or plot work, I recommend it a lot. So yes, this is Mad Ship, and I thought that one was just really excellently done. The next question was biggest disappointment. I feel like this is going to be probably controversial, but my two biggest disappointments, I don't even have them. I think I donated them or gave them to someone. My two biggest disappointments was Sunrise on the Reaping and The Shining. Sunrise on the Reaping, let me talk about that one first. I don't even really remember. I read it like back in November and December, but I found a lot of the characters to just feel not real. I think she was trying too hard to make connections between the other series. It felt unnatural to me. I didn't like the arena. It just felt so out of place of what she's done before. I don't know, none of it felt grounded actually in that world. And I found a lot of the dialogue to be aggravating and annoying. And I thought the emotional like tugs that we were supposed to have, they just all fell flat for me. So I'd say it was probably like a 1 or 2 star book for me. I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, I'll probably watch the movie, but I'd say if you haven't read it, just watch the movie. And I rarely say that. The second book that I thought was a pretty big disappointment was The Shining. And I don't actually know if it was The Shining or if it was me. So it's really hard to say. I was reading this at a time where I was feeling really burnt out academically, and I was going to France, and I was really sick, and just nothing felt like it was going right kind of in my life those few months that I was reading it. And so I feel like maybe I'm projecting how I was feeling about myself and my own situation and my environment onto that book, which isn't really fair. I thought it was a well done book, but I just, thinking about it now in my head, I kind of just feel repulsed, and I don't know if that's the book or if that's me. So I would say it was a disappointment for me, but I think anybody else would like it. I just think it might have been where I was at in life while I was reading it that kind of just made it not enjoyable. Then the biggest surprise, I also don't have this one. I would say my biggest surprise was Tom Lake. I think that's the name of the book, Tom Lake. I started listening to that one last summer, and I enjoyed the summer setting. I enjoyed the characters and kind of the plot, but I found parts of it strange. If you don't know, if you haven't read it, she's talking, the main character is telling her experiences as an actress, and kind of her summer romance with this really famous actor named Duke. And she's telling her girls this during COVID, and she's with her husband, and she's telling the story to her girls with her husband there. The girls are asking her about it, but I thought it was kind of strange that a woman who's married and has 3 grown children is like in depth recounting a really strong romance that she had with another person. I just found that to be weird and kind of irredeemable. Like, I didn't like that weird tension. But this summer I was cleaning and I wanted something else to listen to. I was like, I'm already 70% through Tom Lake. Why don't I just finish that book? And I ended up loving it. I thought that she did such a good job kind of redeeming those tensions that I thought were strange. And it refocused the whole story on how her husband was really always the man for her. And her girls kind of reconciled that in the end too. And yeah, I really want to read more of her work now. So that was a huge surprise. I was not expecting to go from kind of having some like mental arguments with it in my head to loving it by the end of the book. So I thought that that one was really well done. I'm now going to take another drink break. It just rained here. It's been looking kind of cloudy and stuff, and honestly, I'm happy that it rained. Okay. Geez, this lid causes me issues. Okay, so yes, I love Tom Lake. I really would highly recommend it to a lot of people. Okay, The next is like the biggest surprise, or not biggest surprise, your favorite new author. So because I've read a lot of authors that I've read previously, I think probably I would say Ann Patchett. And is it Ann Patchett or Pratchett? Is it Tom? Okay, anyways. I'll say Patchett. I don't know. Let me know. I sound stupid. Anyways, the author of Tom Lake, I would say she is my new favorite author. I haven't read anything else by her yet. I don't even know if I'll like anything else that she's written. But because that was such a big surprise and I liked everything that she ended up doing with the story, I'll say that she's a new favorite author. But that's really hard to say with only have read one of her stories. So I don't know, but that's what I'm going to say. And then my favorite characters are, let's see. So a favorite character of mine that I encountered in Shakespeare is Catherine from The Taming of the Shrew. And I had a hard time with this play. I had a hard time with more of the contemporary reading that we were giving it. I don't know what Shakespeare was doing, but if you don't know the plot of The Taming of the Shrew, basically there are two sisters. One is like very submissive and beautiful and everybody wants to marry her. And then there's one who they call the Shrew, Catherine. And her father said that before Bianca, I think her name is Bianca, before she gets married, or is it Beatrice? Am I getting confused with 10 Things I Hate About You? I don't know. Anyways, before her sister can get married, she has to get married, Catherine. But nobody can marry Catherine because she's such a shrew. She's untamable. She's argumentative, rebellious. She's got so much personality, so much vivacity, so much life. She's so witty. And I found Catherine to be difficult because as a Christian, I think we are called to a lot of those rebellious and sarcastic instincts. I think we're supposed to quell a little bit, not to be walked over, but I don't think that we're supposed to act like her. But then I also don't think we're supposed to act like her sister, just totally submissive and willing to please anyone. And so I found Catherine really challenging and really interesting. And there was a whole discussion at the end of whether or not she's actually been tamed by her husband. Is it Petruchio? Anyways, because she gives this long quote about the husband and who he is and who he stands for. And it's kind of unclear in a lot of ways whether or not she's actually been tamed. So I wrestled with this a lot and I thought it was very interesting. And I loved kind of all the pop culture references with it. I loved Meryl Streep, watching her performances of it. I loved watching other entertaining performances of it. I loved writing about it. So I would say Catherine is a new favorite character of mine. And I wasn't actually expecting to enjoy The Taming of the Shrew as much as I did. The next really surprising favorite character is Malta from Mad Ship. And less people might understand this, but Malta in the first book starts out being kind of this spoiled brat of a girl, like very spoiled. And she changes throughout the series in really kind of mysterious and interesting and just very interesting ways. You go from hating her to, at least in my case, having to kind of struggle of whether or not she's a character that you like. But I do know that every time I was not reading Malta's plotline, I just wanted to be reading Malta's plotline. I think it went from being Althea that I wanted to read about to Malta. And that was kind of wild because before Malta was like driving me crazy. I didn't want to hear about her. But in the end, she really became the person that I wanted to hear about. So I would say my second favorite character was Malta. Then let's look at the next question. Oh, this one is like, did any books make you cry? No, I don't really cry when reading. I think the only book I've ever maybe cried at is The Book Thief and Harry Potter. So no books made me cry. And then the last question is a book that just generally made you very happy. And that is Madeline L'Engle. I don't know how to say her name, but A Wind in the Door. So I read A Wrinkle in Time when I was younger, and I also read A Wind in the Door, but I never got any farther with the series because I found it a bit more challenging to understand. I was a little bit younger and I kind of hated reading at the time. So, but I read this book early in January and I just found it so comforting. It just truly made me happy. I have a few tabs in here actually, which is rare that I do. So let's share what I read. I think what I loved about this book was the domestic, cozy descriptions. So this is on page 95, and it's kind of a description about their house. She tried to think of the most comfortable thing possible, the safest, most reasonable, ordinary thing. What then? The dinner table at home? Winter, the red curtains drawn across the windows, and a quiet snow falling softly outdoors, an applewood fire in the fireplace, and Fortinbras snoring happily on the hearth, a tape playing Holst's The Planets? No, maybe that wasn't too comforting. In her mind's ear, she shifted to a ghastly recording of the school band with Sandy and Dennis playing somewhere in the cacophony. So I just love those home descriptions. And then this was another one. There are still stars which moved in ordered and beautiful rhythm. There are still people in this world who keep promises. Even little ones, like your cooking stew over your Bunsen burner. You may be in the middle of an experiment, but you still remember to feed your family. That's enough to keep my heart optimistic, no matter how pessimistic my mind. And you and I have good enough minds to know how very limited and finite they really are. The naked intellect is an extraordinarily inaccurate instrument. So I just love her worlds, and I love how she discusses the imagination and art and science and all these things kind of combined. I know there's been a lot of discussion about her kind of religious beliefs, and a lot of parents don't let their kids read her books for that reason, but I think they're wrong. I think that there's so much to be learned from her work, and it truly blesses me every time I read it. Hopefully I'll finish the rest of her series before the end of the year. I have books 3, 4, and 5 left. And then I also want to read a few of her other like nonfiction books. So A Wind in the Door was the one that made me probably the happiest. And then, so I think that's all the questions. Lastly, I'm just going to kind of talk through the books I'm currently reading and maybe share a bit of my own reading struggles with you. So my biggest issue this year has been sticking to what I'm reading. I've always been a dipper. That means I dip into books here and there, and I finish them kind of when I will, but it's gotten really out of control. My mind thrives when I'm reading a few things at a time, but reading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things at a time, it's a bit too much. But let me explain myself. So the first one that I was reading is Jane Eyre. This one I was reading with my friend for the Literary Life podcast. But like I said with The Shining, I picked this one up in like late February, mid-March, and I just was in a slog myself. And Jane Eyre, I've always said, is my favorite book. And in that mental state, I did not want to keep reading it, because I did not want to associate bad feelings with a book that I love so, so much. So I opted to get it on audiobook. I got it on Libby. I didn't quite finish it. I left on page 341 out of 400 and something, like 493. So I really only have about 100 pages left, but now I just feel like I don't want to read it. I just want to wait till it comes back on Libby. So this one's just kind of at a standstill until I get it on Libby again. And then maybe I'll pick it up. But yeah, this one was just a huge mental thing for me. So I love Jane Eyre. I have no ill feelings against Jane Eyre. I have ill feelings against where I was when I was reading it. And that's why I put it down. But I know I'll finish it once I get the Libby app. So I'm not like actively reading this one, but I am. The second book that I'm currently reading is Heir of Fire. And I historically have said that I don't like the Throne of Glass series, and I think that's still true. I picked up Heir of Fire when I was struggling to read anything in like April, May, like I said, with my whole reading thing. And I thought maybe it would be good because it was just easy, didn't have to think much, exciting. That's also not the case. I shouldn't have picked this up knowing that I didn't really like it previously. I just got it on Libby, so I'll probably finish listening to it. And I probably won't pick any of the others up, at least for a while. I might one day, but probably not right now. I think I only have about 100 pages of this one too, but I'm just going to finish listening to it. Maybe I'll try and urge myself to finish it this week just so I kind of get this off of my mind too. So once again, this was just a bad decision to pick this up when I did. I think that's the story of a lot of these. Then I was reading Moby Dick. I'm reading so many a bit more challenging classics right now, which I think is also my problem. So Moby Dick, I really wanted to do the Game of Tomes book club this year because I enjoy watching their videos, and I was like, you know what, that sounds like a lot of fun. I think I can handle that. Well, I couldn't. I was reading Shakespeare, I was reading stuff for my capstone paper, and Moby Dick just kind of got the bad side of all of that. I got through this much in January. I still have like 500, 400 pages left, but I don't want to put Moby Dick down either because when am I ever going to pick it up again? Probably never. And to say that I've already gotten almost 150 pages through it, I'm just like really hesitant. So I think my plan, well, I'll discuss my plan after this. But yeah, so Moby Dick was really on the back burner, but I think it's going to be pushed up to priorities again. Because I actually do want to continue with the book club. I know I'm really behind on Anne of Green Gables, but you know, we could pick it up. The next book I'm currently reading is Simplified Organization by Misty Winkler. And I'm reading this because I'm having some big life changes in my life, and I'm going to be reading a lot of books about a certain topic that I need to learn about in the next few months. It's a big change in my family and everything going on around me. So I asked my sister for some recommendations, and she told me start here. So I'm actually almost done with this one. I have about 30 more pages. So I think I could actually finish this one today. But this also isn't the type of book you want to rush. You want to kind of meditate on what it's saying and think about it. And it's so applicable for organization that you kind of want to like really process your own life as you're reading. So this one I'm almost done with, and then it'll be gone. But it's not a book I wanted to rush anyway. So I'm okay that I'm still reading it. The next book is the Iliad. And the Iliad, what is this? I don't even know what this is. Oh, this was a graduation invitation from school. See, that's how all over the place my life is. The Iliad is one that me and my family were reading last year for book club. We have been picking books in the summer to read, and me and my brother-in-law will kind of lead them a bit. He led this one. This summer we're doing A Tale of Two Cities, so we'll kind of like tag team on that. Anyways, we didn't finish it. The summer ended, and I was only at page like 300. So I still have, now I'm at page 355. I've got like 250 pages left. I love the Iliad. I've read the Iliad 3 or 4 times. I've kind of been at this place where it's like, do I want to keep reading the Iliad when I know I've read it so many times and it's okay, I can pick up other things. But also, like I said, because I already got through 3/4 of it, I didn't want to just drop it. So I think I'll continue this one as well. But it is a bit frustrating that I didn't finish it last summer. I wish I had just finished it last summer. My whole life would be easier. Lastly, hear me out. We have From Dawn to Decadence. This book, if you've been watching my channel all along for the last 3 years, I've been reading this book since 2023, spring of 2023. And it is a huge historical tome. I mean, 800 pages of history, Western history from 1500s to present. This one has taken me some time because, as you can imagine, I read 3 pages and then I'm tired. My brain is tired. That's all I can take in. With a type of book like this, I'm okay with that. This is not, let me finish it tomorrow so I can post it on my Goodreads. This is, I need it to sink in. That's the reason I'm reading it. And if I'm just rushing through it, then that's not truly accomplishing why I'm reading it. However, I could definitely pick it up a little bit. So right now I'm reading about the utopias. The next thing I'll be reading about, I don't even know. But it goes through like chapters, kind of, you get a snapshot of where all of the West was in one certain kind of heading. So that's all of the books I have been reading kind of over the past 6 months, even a year, 3 years. But I do need to make a plan to finish some of them up. So I'm going to kind of think on that. Maybe in my next few videos, I will discuss what that plan is. If you have any ideas, let me know. I'm not the type of person that just wants to rush through books, like I said. So I'm okay with having a lot going at a time, but I feel like it's halting me from getting to things that I actually really want to read. And I don't want to pick these up anymore because they've been sitting here for months. So let me know what you think. But yeah, that is my 2026 reading, my even 2025 reading, because some of this I've been reading for a while. I hope maybe you got some recommendations. I'm sorry, maybe my attitude towards reading right now isn't what you want to hear, but that's kind of where I honestly am. And if you have any recommendations for me based off of what I've shown in this video, please let me know in the comments. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you want more content like this, follow along, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good day.